Good day, everyone. Today, we're going to explore the fascinating world of religious diversity and freedom in the ASEAN region. As you know, this is a region filled with diverse cultures, traditions, and religions. Our goal today is to understand how freedom of religion and belief is managed in this intricate region.
Why is it so important to study this topic?
Great questions. It's essential because it helps us understand how different nations coexist, respecting the beliefs of their citizens while facing numerous challenges. ASEAN nations are a microcosm of the broader world in terms of religious diversity, and their experiences can offer valuable insights. Before we delve into the nuances of this important subject, let's set the stage. ASEAN is a region of immense diversity, comprising 10 member countries, each with its own unique blend of cultures, religions, and beliefs. This rich tapestry brings to the fore the vital need for promoting religious freedom and tolerance.
I have heard the term freedom of religion and belief before, but I'm not quite sure what it means. Can you explain a little bit more?
Freedom of religion and belief is a fundamental human right that is recognized worldwide. It's considered an inherent and unassailable human right, meaning it's something that every person should have and no one should take it away from them. Freedom of religion and belief involves several important aspects. The freedom to choose, change, or abandon one religion or belief system. Freedom from discrimination, meaning you shouldn't be treated unfairly because of your religion or belief. Freedom from coercion, which means you shouldn't be forced or pressured to follow a particular religion. Freedom of worship and assembly, allowing you to practice religion and gather with others who share your beliefs. The freedom to express your religious beliefs or views, whether through speech, writing, or other means. Freedom from religious persecution, which means you shouldn't be punished or mistreated because of your religion. The right to objection, meaning you have the right to refuse to do something that goes against your religious belief.
That's quite comprehensive, but how is it officially defended? Does everyone agree on what it means?
The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights defines freedom of religion as the right to choose your religion and worship without unwarranted interference. However, there isn't a unanimous agreement on the exact definition and terminology of religious freedom. Scholars are actively discussing this to clarify its specific content and scope. How religious freedom is defined can have a significant impact on the specific rights it promises.
I see. This is clearer to me now. So it's about having the right to choose your religion, practice it without interference, and not face discrimination or pressure based on your beliefs.
It's all about respecting people's choice and beliefs and ensuring they can practice them freely and without fear or discrimination or coercion. It's a fundamental human right that promotes tolerance and respect for all. To begin, let's talk about the international and regional commitments regarding religious freedom. There are three main instruments which played a pivotal role in establishing standards for religious freedom. The first instrument is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. The UDHR sets a moral and political benchmark. It's important to note that, while it's not legally binding, it provides a foundation in the realm of human rights. In particular, Article 18 of the UDHR proclaims the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. It is this article that forms the moral and legal basis for religious freedom worldwide. However, the UDHR is just the beginning. The International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, ICCPR, in 1976, which is legally binding, takes it a step further by elevating the protection of freedom of religion.
Why is it that not all ASEAN members join the ICCPR? And how does this affect religious freedom in the region?
Great questions. The varying participation in the ICCPR across ASEAN countries indeed has a significant impact on religious freedom in the region. Let's break this down step by step. First, when we talk about the ICCPR, we're referring to a crucial international treaty. It's like a contract that countries sign to commit to certain standards related to civil and political rights, including religious freedom. In the ASEAN region, 6 out of 10 countries are parties to the ICCPR. These are Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam. But you may wonder, why the other 4, Brunei, Malaysia, Myanmar, and Singapore, haven't joined? The reasons for this can be quite complex and vary from country to country. Some may have concerns about certain provisions in the ICCPR, while others might have different legal or political systems that make participation less straightforward. For example, Singapore has cited concerns about potential conflicts between the ICCPR and its Internal Security Act. So, what's the impact of this varying participation? Well, countries that are parties to the ICCPR are legally bound by its provisions when it comes to protecting religious freedom. They are like members of a club with specific rules they have to follow. This can result in stronger protections for religious minorities and a legal basis for addressing religious discrimination. On the other hand, countries that haven't joined don't have the same legal obligations. This can create challenges for religious minorities, as they may not have the same legal recourse to address issues related to religious discrimination. Let's get back to our international exploration. In 1981, the United Nations adopted the Declaration on the Elimination of All Forms of Intolerance and of Discrimination based on Religion or Belief. This declaration further reinforced and expanded the concept of freedom of religion, going beyond religious freedom to include beliefs and the non-theistic convictions. Do you understand what this means? This means that the declaration didn't just protect the freedom to practice any religion, but also included the freedom to hold different beliefs or even not to believe in any god or gods at all. This declaration, however, is not binding but passed with consensus by the United Nations members. We also have regional documents like the ASEAN Human Rights Declaration, AHRD, that complement these efforts. The ASEAN Human Rights Declaration, AHRD, becomes our beacon. It complements international efforts and emphasizes the importance of promoting and protecting religious freedom in the ASEAN region. However, AHRD was criticized as vague and has a limited ability to address human rights challenges within the member states.
I'm curious, could you provide an example of the ASEAN Human Rights Declaration vague language and how it affected the protection of religious freedom in the region?
The criticism of the AHRD is indeed an important aspect to consider. Let's dig into why the AHRD faces scrutiny and how it impacts human rights within the ASEAN region. The AHRD has faced ongoing criticism primarily for its vague language and perceived shortcomings in addressing human rights issues effectively. One point of contention is Article 22, Clause 1 of the AHRD, which states that every person has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. All forms of intolerance, discrimination, and incitement of hatred based on religion and belief shall be eliminated. Critics argue that the AHRD doesn't explicitly address the right to have or adopt a religion or impose a positive obligation on states to ensure the free practice of religion. This is an important concern, as some ASEAN member states uphold certain religious privileged positions, as reflected in their national constitutions and their approach to international human rights treaties. Another issue is the AHRD's potential for diverse interpretations among ASEAN member states. It's essential to recognize that each country may have different reasons for agreeing to the AHRD, and they might interpret its provisions differently. This diversity in interpretation indicates a lack of common approach or shared opinion on human rights within the regional organization. Moreover, critics argue that AHRD could be used as a shield for rights violations, creating challenges in holding states accountable for their human rights practices. The AHRD also contains Article 40, which is understood as a self-limiting clause. It prevents any interpretation that could undermine the principles and rights outlined in the ASEAN Charter. It emphasizes the importance of respecting the independence, sovereignty, and national identity of ASEAN member states, which often referred to as the ASEAN Way. Now, let's look at the constitutional provisions in the ASEAN countries. Many ASEAN countries' constitutions explicitly affirm the freedom of belief and religion. These provisions typically state that individuals have the right to profess, practice, and propagate their religion freely. Several constitutions also emphasize principles of equality and non-discrimination concerning religion. They prohibit discrimination based on religion and often extend these protections to religious minorities. Additionally, constitutions often specify the right to worship and observe religious practices without interference from the state. Many countries have constitutional protections for religious freedom, but the extent to which they are enforced varies due to political, social, and cultural factors. These provisions align with the international human rights standards, but some countries have limitations on religious freedom based on public order, morality, or national security.
That's interesting, Professor. But you also mentioned that some ASEAN countries allow limitations on the rights to religious freedom. What kind of limitations are we talking about, and why are they permitted?
I can see that you are really paying attention. The limitations allowed in several ASEAN countries are typically justified on grounds of public order, morality, or national security. For instance, blasphemy laws are often used to criminalize certain religious groups that are critical to the state, government, or the religious establishment of the majority. These limitations may or may not align with international human rights standards, which permit restrictions in certain circumstances. The extent and nature of these limitations can vary significantly among ASEAN countries. For example, requiring that religious group register in order to operate, limiting certain religious activities and government favoritism of religious group through funding for religious education or property, but prosecuting certain religious minorities. It's important to note that these limitations aim to balance religious freedom with the broader interests of society, ensuring that freedom of belief do not lead to actions that might threaten public order or security.
Some countries in ASEAN designate a state religion, while others declare secularism as a fundamental principle. How does this impact the legal and societal treatment of religious matters?
Designating a state religion, as seen in countries like Malaysia and Brunei, where Islam is the state religion, can influence the legal and societal treatment of religious matters. In such cases, certain religious practices and principles may receive special recognition and support from the state. On the other hand, declaring secularism as a fundamental principle, as seen in Indonesia, means that the state is expected to remain neutral in religious matters. This distinction can significantly impact how religious issues are handled legally and socially, with implications for religious minorities and their rights.
You mentioned that cultural and religious variations in interpreting and applying freedom of belief persist in ASEAN South Asia. Can you provide an example of how this variation affects religious freedoms in the region?
Cultural and regional variations can lead to different interpretations and applications of freedom of belief. For instance, within ASEAN, some countries may have a more conservative interpretation of religious practices, while other countries may have a more liberal approach. These variations can result in different outcomes and challenges for religious minorities or those with dissenting beliefs, as their experiences may vary significantly depending on the cultural and regional context.
It seems like there are many challenges to implementing religious freedom in ASEAN. I feel that there seem to be selective implementation of religious freedom protections, ambiguity in domestic legislation, influence of religious authorities on individual rights, and political and cultural factors over religious freedom.
That's a good observation. However, we must also acknowledge that, in general, ASEAN member states do proactively establish various initiatives towards religious protection and harmony. They promote tolerance, regulate religious groups, and create favorable conditions for religious minorities. However, in some cases, political stability may take precedence over religious freedom. governments might be hesitant to enforce religious freedom when it could lead to unrest or conflicts. As you leave this class today, I encourage you to advocate for better awareness in the topic and respect for every people's religion in your communities. It's important that we focus on the common concepts and shared principles, such as the importance of compassion, as it may lead to social cohesion and harmony. Keep in mind that this journey demands a collective effort to cultivate. As Kofi Annan wisely put it, we may have different religion, different languages, different colored skin, but we all belong to one human race.